Saludos and salutations, Broncos Country, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. Today, we are going to talk about the breaking big news we have about it is so hard to contain. Everybody's talking about it. It is taking everybody by storm in Broncos Country. Bo Nix, a big Bo Nix news, and we're also going to talk about the quarterbacks that are going to be possibly on the bubble. We're going to talk about roster predictions, and we're also going to look forward to the game against the Cardinals. So stay tuned, everybody. Sit tight, because here we go with today's episode.
Broncos talk, let's rock, feel the energy rise. From the microphone to the fans reaching the skies. Every episode, a thrill and surprise. For the love of the game, we harmonize.
All right, I'm here.
Welcome back, everybody. Today is Wednesday, August 21st, and this is Broncos Talk here on the Orange and Blue Network. As always, my name is Adan Diaz, and I am the owner and proprietor, I've been working on that, I swear, of Broncos Talk. And to my right, for those with benefit of videography, is Ty Y, the fantasy guy. Ty, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm all right. I was stressing a little bit. I couldn't get on for some reason. And then I found out in the app, I didn't know this. I had to copy and paste the link. That's it. That's all it was. I never used it. So
I want to promise our listeners and fans out there, we are definitely, it looks like we're new to this, and we kind of are. So we do apologize for any technical difficulties and for making you guys wait for those in the waiting room. But finally, we are here. Guys, we have so much to get to in today's show, action-packed, but we got to get a couple of things out of the way first before we do. First and foremost, you guys are watching this stream live on the Orange and Blue Network. So for those of you that are here for the very first time, welcome. For all you returning listeners, even if you're listening to the show after the fact, please make sure that wherever it is you're listening to this show on audio, you give it a thumbs up, 5-star reviews, hit us up on Twitter. You can hit me up at 6'10" Mexican and show me all those screenshots and let me know that you guys listen to the show. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to hit us up there. And for those of you that are watching us at the moment, please make sure you subscribe to the Orange and Blue Network. You see all of our socials right there, YouTube, X/Twitter, Facebook.com/Orange and Blue Network. And also everywhere, as I said, you guys listen to your faves. Make sure you like and subscribe. Also, big news, Ty, for those that are watching us for the very first time or that don't know, we have partnered with MHRT Network, my good friends at MHRT. Thank you guys so much. It is a pleasure to be able to be working with you guys alongside once again. So make sure you guys hit them up on their socials, as you see here on the screen, at MHRT Network on X, YouTube, Facebook, and they have a twitch.tv/MHRT Network. So make sure you guys go show them some love, comment, like, and subscribe, and let them know that Adon sent you. And of course, before we also get started, today's show is sponsored by Dubby. So just a quick recap, guys. Dubby was formulated to give you guys focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics included. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, including the patented neurofactor. It also contains no calories. It has no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fillers, and no artificial colors. So thank you so much to Dubby for sponsoring today's show and for being a sponsor on the Orange and Blue Network at that. We are very grateful for the sponsorship. And guys, make sure you go out and get yourself out a case or two of Dubby and tell them that we here at Orange and Blue and here at Broncos Talk sent you. I know that's a lot of talking. Ty, I really do apologize. I don't mean to hog the spotlight like that. But
That's
my friend, do we have a freaking show for everybody today? Before we went live on the air, we got breaking news. And for those of you that are following on Orange and Blue Network, you guys heard it first. Our boss and owner, Johnny Baki, broke the news on the Freshly Squeezed podcast. If you didn't see it, go back and watch it on the network. It doesn't matter if you listen to it after the fact, audio listeners. I'm telling you, you want to see this. His reaction was probably the same reaction we all had. And it's something that we were all expected, but we were just waiting for it to be official, which it officially is. And Ty, the big news out of Broncos country is that Sean Payton has officially named Bo Nix as the starting quarterback. Ty, your thoughts?
My thoughts are I'm ecstatic. Like you said, we all knew it was going to happen. We all pretty much knew 100%. But I didn't know till Zano put in the group chat that Sean Payton announced him as a starter. So I'm like, all right. So I went on the Twitter X, I looked and I seen it. I went on Bleacher Report, seen it, and I was ecstatic. I was happier than ever. I'm like, we finally got a quarterback. He's the first rookie quarterback to start since John Elway. So I'm pretty sure me, along with you and everybody else, were happy. Bo looked great in the preseason so far. So it's good news for us. So
yeah, I was kind of ranting and raving. I was sitting in my car about to getting ready to drive home when I saw Johnny go on the air and talk about it, and it just gives us, it's like a breath of fresh air almost, because for the last couple of weeks, ever since training camp started, guys, we just had like this notion that we didn't really, I don't know, it like I said in last week's episode, guys, it almost felt like Sean Payton and even the media were kind of trying to build this quarterback, questionnaire or circle or whatever you want.
In my opinion, they were trying to do like a controversy, but
yeah, so like it wasn't even needed. And as we go further into today's episode, we're going to talk about the remaining two quarterbacks on the schedule, Ty, that are going to definitely be playing for the number 2 quarterback spot this coming weekend against the Cardinals. And it goes without saying that Bo Nix will not start this weekend. So
nope.
Hard to break your hearts, Broncos country. We're going to have to wait 2 weeks until we see Bo Nix suit up officially as the quarterback's official quarterback against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. So that's going to be a great game to watch. But before we go any further, guys, for those of you with benefit videography, word I like to make up now, let's say hi to the people in the room here. Ty, Avatar says, "What's up, Broncos country?" And Bo-Lieve, Avatar, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. Always great to see you. Gary Neighbor says, "Go Denver Broncos. Bo Nix is the starter." Gary, thank you so much for joining us. Always so happy to see you. Jay Dreamweaver says, "What's up, please?" Dreamweaver, thank you so much for being here.
Did you hear me and Jay? We're going to be going to the Jets game, and we're going to do an episode from there.
Yes, I heard. I watched yesterday's episode of Nothing Rhymes With. And guys, if you missed yesterday's episode, please make sure you go back and watch it. It was a very, very awesome episode. And I can't wait to see you guys. Me, myself, I'm trying to go to a Broncos game this season. I had a little setback in terms of financial, but I'm trying to aim for the Panthers at Denver game. That's my...
I'd like that game.
That's the game I want to go to.
I never remember.
Oh, I've been to Denver twice, and I didn't go last year because the Broncos came here to Chicago, and then I went to go see them in Vegas. But I definitely need to go back to Denver because I need to just recharge off of Broncos country. And while it is great to see fans here in Chicago and even in Vegas, there's just nothing like being at Empower Field and just feeling the thunder, the roar of the crowd. And especially with Bo Nix now officially leading the Broncos, I think that we are in for a treat.
It's going to be wild. I think when you go, it's going to be wild.
Yeah, I'm crossing my fingers. I hope I can make it. I'm really trying my hardest. I'm working like you wouldn't believe. But let's go further as to let's take a look at what Bo Nix is looking at now, Ty, now that we know he's the starter. Let's start with the AFC West. Now, obviously, he's going to be in contention with Patrick Mahomes, the defending Kansas City Chiefs, and I really hate saying those words.
Yeah.
You have no idea. Surprisingly, earlier, the Raiders named Gardner Minshew their starter. So that's a bit of a head scratcher. And
Yeah.
there have been other people, I don't know if you want to call them analysts per se, but there were other people on social media who were kind of skeptical that weren't even Raiders fans at that, but they were just kind of like, what's his name? There's this guy I follow on TikTok. I think his name was Tico. He was basically, he made a really good point where he said, why would you hand over the keys to Aiden O'Connell, who was starting to get comfortable in that offense, you know, him playing most of it last year, and then you just hand it over to Gardner Minshew, who's literally just came over from Indianapolis, you know.
So, well, maybe more experience, you know, maybe that's why, or maybe we don't know what really happened. Maybe he got the playbook down more. We don't really know, but I understand where he's coming from. So, but I can see why they maybe started Minshew.
Well, I think that they were, to play devil's advocate here, folks, I think that the Raiders would have been better off just with Aiden O'Connell. I thought Gardner was going to come in to more than likely be the backup. I didn't actually think he was in competition to take over the number one spot. I mean, when he was in Indianapolis last year, Minshew didn't start. He was the backup behind Richardson, you know, and if it wasn't for Richardson getting hurt, Minshew probably wouldn't have seen as much time as he did.
But if you look at that, I mean, I'm not arguing them, but Richardson was a higher prospect than Aiden O'Connell. You know what I mean? So the top 4 pick. So I think that's why he was the backup, you know, and then when he got hurt, he came in. Minshew's been that journeyman for what? I don't know how many years he's been in the league, but he's been around. So like I said, I just feel like he has the more experience, and that's why they'd go to him. But
so with that said, Ty, if you look at the 2 games against the Raiders, how just, and this is a guess because we're going to do our predictions next week's episode in terms of where we think the Broncos are going to, you know, win-loss ratio. But just off the top of your head, doesn't have to be 100% sure. How do you think Bo Nix is going to do out of those 2 games? Do you think he sweeps the Raiders or splits, or do you think that we take a back seat again?
I think I'm going to say split. We win at home and lose at their place.
Yeah, I actually see them splitting, but for some reason, I have it the opposite way than you. I think that the Broncos win on the road, and I hope I'm wrong on this, but the Raiders, for some reason, usually catch the Broncos kind of either snoozing or at the worst time at home when they do lose. So I don't mind it if it's the other way around, but I completely agree with you. I see them splitting it. I'd be really shocked if they get swept again, but we really hoping for a sweep.
A big thing though is, don't mean to cut you, they don't have Josh Jacobs, so
yeah, and they don't have Josh Jacobs anymore. He's in Green Bay, so that's a very good point. Moving on to the Chargers, how do you see the Broncos doing up against Justin Herbert? And
well, I'm actually really excited. That's the most matchup I want to see the most because Herbert's still young, and I think it's going to be a good matchup. Herbert versus Bo Nix. So I think it's going to be very entertaining, and I actually think we're going to sweep them.
Yep, I'm in agreement with you too.
They're the Chargers, man. I don't know. We usually beat them, so I think we sweep them 2-0.
Yeah, I agree too. I think that the Chargers are in a worse position than the Raiders are in terms of, you know, nothing against Harbaugh, but he's coming in a time where the Chargers, they're in pretty much disarray. You know, they have that one wide receiver that they drafted who's probably like their only highlight. They still got Khalil Mack, they still have Joey Bosa, but as good as those guys are, you know, they can only do so much playing defense. So I think that the Chargers are probably going to get swept by Denver. I hope they do.
Me too.
And now moving on to the golden goose of all questions, Ty, the Kansas City Chiefs.
If I'm going to be honest, I think I might get hate for this, but I don't think we beat them this year. I think because Bo's a rookie, and yes, we beat him last year. I forget what the score was. I think it was about like 15 or something. But I don't think we'll get it done in both games, just in my opinion. So, I mean, I might get hate for it, maybe in a group chat. I don't know, but that's just how I'm feeling right now. I got to see Bo play before I could say anything more. I got to see him play in regular season, you know, against starters. per se, like the whole game. So, but for now, I don't think we beat them.
I'm actually going to disagree and say I think that the Broncos split it, just for the simple fact that I mean, let's face it. When the Broncos beat Mahomes, yes, Mahomes wasn't at 100%. He had the flu or what have you, but still, he decided to suit up. He didn't have to play. He could have sat it out, and it could have been the backup. But I don't even think the backup would have fared any better than Mahomes would have. It was just that the Broncos at the time were just they were getting hot.
Yeah, they were.
And they struck while the iron was hot, so to speak. So, but as far, and I'm only saying that because there's just something about Vance Joseph's defense that starting to look like it's starting to take it's starting to look like it's taking shape. And it's just seeing what we've been seeing for the last 2 weeks going into the third. And that's just with backups, Ty, which is where we're going to get into in just a little bit last week's game. The defense, even with second and third stringers, they've held their own, and they've only held if it wasn't for a Zach Wilson giant big freaking mistake, they would have held him to 0 points.
Yeah.
So I want to believe that Vance Joseph's defense have learned, even with losing a key player like Justin Simmons to the Falcons, that they are able to hopefully not just beat the Chiefs once, but beat them twice, and giving Denver that huge advantage that they have not seen since, I want to say, 2015, maybe earlier than that, the last time they swept them.
Yeah. I could see that though too. Like I said, defense is stepping up, and I could see that. I could see a possibility. But like I said, till I see Bo play starting defenses, I'm just right now I say we lose both. But
yeah, Avatar joins us here, Ty. He says Chiefs lost Hollywood Brown for the season. I did not know that.
Yeah, he's out for the season. But hey, listen, I hate Mahomes, but it's Mahomes. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Shai Vargas asking us, what is our record prediction? You know what? I actually gave one a long time ago before this show came to Orange and Blue. I don't remember what it was, to be honest with you, but we're actually going to save that answer for next week's episode. So make sure you guys tune in. And just to kind of going past the division now, I think that Bo Nix gives the Broncos a much better chance at what's coming up ahead, because the second half of the schedule for the Broncos gets really tough, Ty. I do see them beating, just to go off of week one, I do see them winning against Seattle. Seattle has just kind of been they're in a rut, to be honest with you. They lost Pete Carroll. Geno Smith seems to have taken a huge step backwards from what he was his first year in Seattle. So to Shai Vargas, again, you took the I was really about to answer. He said, do you think Bo Nix is NFL ready?
Yeah.
And I was actually getting to that. You beat me to the punch, Shai. Stay out of my head. That's a question you can ask for every one of the rookies that are going to suit up week one. I mean, you got Caleb Williams in Chicago. You got the young man in Washington. You got the young man in New England. Bo Nix in Denver. Who am I missing?
You would have JJ, but JJ get hurt.
Yeah. And there are other quarterbacks that are trying to bounce back, excuse me. I think for Carolina, their quarterback, he's looking for a huge bounce back. If he has another season like he did last year, even though he has a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator and all that, then they got some real problems down there in Carolina. But that's a really hard question to answer, Shai, just for the simple fact that, and this kind of goes back to what everybody's been saying, and especially one of my good friends, Benjamin Albright, who was kind of fanning off the flames of when he put out there that, the only reason Bo Nix looks good is because he's playing against second and third stringers, which there is some truth to that. But that's exactly what you want to see from your number one pick. You want him to look good, because then you're kind of prepping him for, hey, yes, those are second and third stringers, but if we're going to give you the keys, we need to know that you're going to be the guy that when you're supposed to do what you do, you look great doing it. And when you make mistakes, it's like, oh shit, I messed that up. And then you got to go back to the drawing board, fix what's broken, and keep it from making a mistake and just avoid being a bust altogether, Ty.
I agree.
And I think that Bo Nix is going to be good. Now, would I say good enough for offensive rookie of the year? Like, obviously, my orange blue colored glasses, I'm going to say yes. But if I take them off, it's like, if he was the only one, kind of like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young was last year, where they were just like the new guys on the block, new kids on the block, I mean, then yeah. But with all this it's going to be a toss up, man.
Well,
it really is.
Not to mean to cut you off, but like
no.
You bring up rookie of the year. It's also, will the whole team step up? You know what I mean? Well, is he going to makers and make the plays? Is Cortland Sutton? Yes, he had 10 touchdowns, but they were all in the red zone. Is he going to play like that all year? Is Javonte not going to get hurt? Is he going to, is he going to exceed? Are all the players going to help him? It's possible he could win rookie of the year. The odds went up for him. The odds are better. It's just the whole team needs to play better as a whole for him to do that.
Right. Blitzby Reppin joins us. He says, "Hey boys, heard the great news, Broncos Country. Let's go." Blitzby Reppin, thank you so much for joining us, man. Always good to see you in the chat. And Shy also asked us, what players do we keep on the 53-man roster?
They went over.
And I'm sorry?
No, they went over that last night, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they did. But I guess they want Shy wants to hear our opinion. And to me, Shy, to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to tell at this moment, just for the simple fact that with the third game coming up, which is a great segue into the next part of today's show, which is the game we saw against the Packers. There's going to be a lot of players that are on the bubble. Almost every person or every player you see hit the field on Sunday is on the bubble. Some of them are a lot closer to being cut than others, because I think that roster cuts have to be made before Monday at a certain time, if I'm not mistaken, Ty.
I think it's Monday at 3, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
when 53-man rosters have to be finalized for sure. So, but let's get into the other two quarterback conversation, Ty, and that's Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. So I think we should start with Zach Wilson. And kind of, for those of you who don't know or have not heard my personal opinion about Zach Wilson, my opinion was that when the Broncos drafted for him, I think that they drafted him because kind of like as an insurance policy in case, that they weren't able to get their quarterback selection in the draft, and then they could have gotten in the best player available and then said, hey, at least we got Stidham. And then at least we got Zach Wilson. Let's have a quarterback competition with them. Maybe bring in an undrafted quarterback or something, and let the chips land where they fall, where they land, or however that saying goes. But when they got him, when they got Bo Nix, then it was kind of like, okay, now we have a little conundrum on our hands. Now we have 3 quarterbacks. So me personally, before the preseason even began, I thought that Zach Wilson had the upper hand, just for the simple fact that he has a little bit more experience on his side than Jarrett Stidham does. Plus, he played, or he didn't. I can't say play because Aaron Rodgers got hurt like week 1, but he was in somewhat under the tutelage of Rodgers. And regardless of what you think of Aaron Rodgers, he's still good at what he does. We have yet to see what he can do in a Jets uniform with an entire different staff. But, given his track record, I mean, he has beaten Chicago countless times. Don't ask me how I know that. And he has won a Super Bowl. So he has learned something from that. And Zach Wilson, when he was with the Jets last year, has a win over Denver in the quote unquote Nathaniel Bowl. So,
horrible game.
Yeah, it was a shitty game. Yeah, that one hurt. So that was probably my biggest reason about getting Zach Wilson, just for this, kind of like when the Broncos drafted Russell Wilson. Like, yes, I was excited at first, but then I remembered what his Super Bowl ring says, and it was kind of like, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow either way back in 2022. But what we saw from Zach Wilson on Saturday, Ty, was just kind of like I felt it was a big regression from what we saw the week before against Indianapolis. That safety should have never happened, and I get it. The offensive line, they had their struggles in that game, but you as a quarterback, you have to know your position. And if you're that backed up, you cannot take a sack like that and get a safety. There's no possible way. Your thoughts, Ty?
I was going to say the same thing. It's just like back when we played the 49ers and Jimmy G got the safety too. I always think when a quarterback, even young, older especially, you should know where you're at all times. If you're in the end zone, you can't take safeties at all, especially when you're down that much. You have to get out of the end zone. You can't be taking them like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And back to Zach Wilson thing, like you said, you thought we got him for the because we didn't know if we were get Bo Nix or our quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much thought the same thing, but as of right now, I think that Zach Wilson can be used as a little bit of trade bait. Maybe it was talked about a little bit last night, and I was listening to Johnny and Jay talk about it, and it was starting to make sense to me. I didn't even think about that at first, but the way they were explaining it and talking, it started to make sense. I could see Zach and us keeping Steady as the backup.
Well, that's actually an interesting situation there for Sean Payton, Ty. And I say that because each one of those has its own kind of like benefit. If you keep Wilson and you don't want a third quarterback and you trade Stidham, then you get cap space, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And if you go the other way and you keep Stidham and trade Zach Wilson, then you can get some draft capital for him. And if they do that, then the Broncos can either hold on to those picks for next year, or if they're in a situation where they need to upgrade during the season, they can use that as leverage or trade it off to get a player to upgrade a position anywhere on the field. So, I mean, me personally, I don't see the Broncos going in with 3 quarterbacks. I know they've done it in the past, but I just don't think it's that necessary, just for the simple fact that Sean Payton, in my perspective, I kind of feel like he's all chips in because he was able to get the owners to do what nobody thought, which was cut Russell Wilson and have them eat a ton of dead cap money for it all season. He was able to convince them to get him his quarterback, the guy that he wanted. So I don't really see Sean Payton going backwards because his ass is on the line. Going forward, maybe he has a bit of a safety net this season, unless the Broncos do worse than what they did last year and they completely tank, and Bo Nix regresses, which I don't see it either. But if you ask me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Broncos fan, but out of all the coaching and quarterback, out of all the rookies, I think that Sean Payton and Bo Nix have the better advantage, because I feel that that Sean Payton didn't just take what was best available. I think that Sean Payton, and this is just my opinion, it's not a fact, that he just basically got the guy that he wanted, versus, I mean, Caleb Williams, everybody knew the Bears were going to take Caleb Williams, regardless of who their head coach was. So, and for everybody else, it may be, best player available, which is why Bo Nix fell as far as he did down the list, and he finally landed in Denver's lap. And I really do hope I'm right about that, because if Bo Nix wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, it's gonna, man.
Possible. Like I said, everybody has to help out and step up this year. You can't be fumbling, drop passes, none of that. It's a full team effort, and it's possible. He could be Offensive Rookie of the Year. I could see it.
Yeah. Mundungus Creevy saying, Broncos talk!
Broncos talk.
Mundungus, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being able to say the words MHRT Network again, in terms of, partnership and being able. We're actually being, for those of you that don't know, we are being simulcasted. So you're watching us live on the OBN Orange Blue Network and on MHRT Network at the exact same time. It's freaking awesome. I love being able to say that.
I haven't met him yet, so.
Oh, Mundungus. I've never met Mundungus personally, but I've had great conversations with him. And I hear he's a really great hugger. So he gives great hugs.
I like hug. I'm down.
So I'm in line to get a hug from him one day if
Me
I can
too.
find him in I think he's in a cornfield somewhere in Nebraska. I think he lives. I don't know. I don't
A hug
remember.
out by Jay.
Yeah, out by Jay possibly. But going back to the game on Green Bay, let's talk about Jarrett Stidham now. So Jarrett Stidham, to me, he didn't do worse than before, but I don't think he did any better. I think he was kind of just like mediocre-ish in the middle. And if the rumors were true that Stidham was slated to be the number one starter before preseason one, it's his fault for losing that job if that was true. So now he's really in a pickle where he has to put on a better show than Zach Wilson this coming week against Arizona. And the reason I say that is because he's not going to have the number ones, because I'm pretty sure none of the ones are starting. Offensive line, defense, well, not defense, but wide receivers. So he's going to have to try to make, chicken food out of, well, I don't want to say chicken shit, but that's just how the saying goes. Just basically do the best that he can to try to get that quarterback 2 spot. So when it comes down to it, Ty, this week's game is going to come up to who looks better in that Sean Payton system and who makes less mistakes in that Sean Payton system. And, knock on wood that they never have to rely on, quarterback to play from those guys, and that Bo Nix can play the entire season to the best of his ability.
I never even thought of Stidham being like when they did the unofficial depth chart and they had him at 1. I never even thought of Stidham starter anyways, because I feel like he's reached his top. He's in the league 7 years. He's always just going to be like a backup, in my opinion, And I even talked about it last night. I just don't ever see him being a full-time starter in the NFL. When we brought in Zach, like I said, I thought he could have gave a better competition for Bo or Zach than Stidham. I just never seen Stidham at all ever being the starter.
Yeah, and so if you had to guess, and let's say the Broncos, hypothetically speaking, Ty, they're only going to keep one quarterback. Who do you think, based on what we've seen these last 2 games, the Broncos keep?
Well, you could say it like this. So on the one end, like you said, they save money if they cut Stidham, don't put him on. I don't know if they could put him on the practice squad, but say they cut him, they save money with that, and then they keep Zach, because Zach's like how did Sean Payton put it? Not a project, but like he'll work with him, get him better, whatever. Or you keep Stidham, and then you cut Zach, and then you're just stuck with them 2, Bo Nix and Stidham. So you said, who do I think that will keep? I would say, I'll probably say Stidham, because more experience in the Broncos scheme and he's been there. So I think Zach gets maybe cut.
Right. But before I answer your question, I want to bring a talk about this one sidebar, because I know I haven't said that in a while. But Mundungus Creevy jumping in, he says, we go way back, talk about my friendship with him. He says, a lot of people might not know it, but I, Adon, am a founding member of MHRT, which is true. I'm one of the people that helped him name it. So just a quick story for you guys. When I started doing Broncos Talk back in 2020, I think it was, during the pandemic, like I was kind of brand new to the game. I was just doing what everybody was doing at the time, which was just podcasting, because it was the only thing we could do from our home. So I bought a mic, I hooked it up, and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced, and I sat down. And I did like 1 or 2 episodes, maybe. If you go back, for those with on audio, if you go back all the way to the very bottom, you can hear me, and I'm probably sure. And Mundungus cracks up about this every time. I never figured out that I was actually recording, instead of the microphone in front of me, I was actually recording off the webcam mic, and I didn't realize it. So if you listen to it, it's all messed up and muffled and shit. So And it wasn't until when I joined up with Mundungus and he heard me, we did an audio test before we went live, and he was like, "Bro, like, why does your microphone sound like crap?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "I bought it. I thought it was working." And he's like, "Are you using your webcam mic?" And that's when I went to the settings and it was like, "Oh yeah, I am using the webcam." Like,
Rookie mistake, man.
yeah. But and me, him, and Glenn Hauser, shout out to Glenn, by the way. We just kind of put our heads together because they reached out and they were like, "Hey, we have an idea for a show." And we were just kind of, and I still have the messages from way back then somewhere on my phone. And we were just kind of shooting like all these names. And if I'm not mistaken, somebody from Glenn's job or one of his connections or friends or something helped us come up with the logo. There were different logos that we wanted to put out, and it was such a blast. I love going back and watching the old episodes when MHRT first premiered. We were young, we were energetic, we were hopeful for a brighter future, which we still are.
Yeah.
But you know, it's great times, and I love each one of those guys very deeply.
That sounds amazing. That sounds nice.
But getting back to on topic, I would probably have to say, Ty, if I had to keep if I had to keep one, I would unless Zach Wilson did something even worse than last week, and I don't know how much worse you can get than, you know, causing a safety, which is probably throwing interceptions or sack fumbles against second or third stringers. I think the Broncos should stay with Stidham.
Yeah.
I think they should stay with him, because even though I'm not high on him, and it kind of goes back to the whole thing with Russell Wilson before Bo Nix was drafted. When Russell was cut, and I was really hurt about it, and I said, better the devil you do than the devil you don't, because I thought that the Broncos were going to go out, and obviously they couldn't get another quarterback in free agency because they didn't have the money for it. But it's better that, because there's just something about Zach Wilson that I just don't. Nothing against him, but
I don't really like it either.
I don't know, man. Like, he hasn't done anything in an orange and blue uniform for me that makes me say he could be the decent backup to Bo Nix now. You know?
Well, like Blitz Zano says here, he says he thinks Zach. I don't know if I can put it on the screen or not.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks Wilson has a higher ceiling, which technically is true because he's younger. And like I said earlier, like Stidham already hit his top because he's 7 years in the league, and I always think he's a backup. But like you said, I don't know. I just haven't really seen. Zach has plenty. He had plenty of opportunity in New York. You know what I mean? And I haven't seen nothing really special yet. So
yeah, the only part of this I don't agree with, and that's putting Zach Wilson on practice squad, because as that would, you'd basically be giving him away. Because even regardless of how Zach Wilson finishes the preseason, there's always a team out there that needs a body, you know. And right now, the only team that comes to mind that's starving the most is the Vikings. So if the Vikings don't trade for another quarterback like they did last year when they traded with Arizona, and that was before Kirk Cousins. Was it before Kirk Cousins got hurt or after? But I don't remember.
With Dobbs.
Yeah, with Dobbs.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I just think that they should get some type of compensation instead of leaving him in a practice squad slot.
That's why I was saying I brought up about the whole, like, Sean Payton. He was like gushing up Zach Wilson, even though we traded for him. I think he was doing that, maybe talking all good about him. Like you were saying, instead of putting him on a practice squad, you could trade for him. Maybe that's another reason why too. Use him as a trade bait. That's, you know what I mean. So I could possibly see that happening too. Using Zach as a trade bait and keeping Stidham, because like you said, practice squad, they get picked up. And then we lost those. We gave away those picks for nothing.
Yeah. Mundungus jumps in, guys, and he says Wilson has a much better arm than Stidham, but mentally he was broken by the Jets, and Peyton needs time to fix it. Now, I feel this, man. I feel this, and the only and why I say that is because there has to be a reason, aside from my personal opinion, that I think that the Broncos got him as an insurance policy, is that out of all the quarterbacks that he could have gotten, you know, in free agency or undrafted or whatever, Sean Payton went after Zach Wilson. There's got to be a reason. Nobody really knows why, but this stands out to me, and it makes sense to me.
He did have a cannon. I remember that. I remember watching. I wanted us to actually draft him in the combine. He did have a cannon, so I do agree with that. His arm is much better than Stidham's.
Yeah. D-Rock jumping in. He says, "Sup, boys? Sup, D-Rock? What's going on, man?
Thanks
Good
for
to
joining.
see you, brother. Thank you so much for jumping into the chat." There are a couple people here,
Yeah.
Ty, that say the Broncos should carry 3 quarterbacks.
Hey.
Mundungus thinks so. Dreamweaver jumping in. He says, "I'm pro boy band quarterback room." Stiddy doesn't fit the quote unquote look of blonde, bro. I'm sorry, I misread that. I thought Dreamweaver was for 3 quarterbacks in Denver. And if the Broncos decide to do that and take a risk with having 2 quarterbacks on the roster, then so be it. But just keep in mind that if they do that, that means that there's going to be a player out there on another side of the field that's not going to make the team.
I think also too, with the injuries we had last year, like who guarantees Patrick to be healthy all year, right? Who's gonna take a bet on that? So if you keep 3 quarterbacks, that's most likely another less receiver not in the team. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna bet anything Patrick stays. I hope he stays healthy, but I want to put a bet on it. So I think we actually keep more receivers this year. And we, like I said, down to the 2 quarterbacks.
I do too. And Dreamweaver, man, I'm telling you, people are just stay out of my head. I was thinking about Drew Lock, and he says, now we could bring Drew Lock back to make 3. Now that's a boy band. You know what? And as much as I'd like to agree with you, Jay,
I love it.
From what we saw in New York from Daniel Jones, and this is a hot take. I wish I had a sizzling button, like bacon sound for that. But a early hot take. I think that Drew Lock takes that starting position a lot sooner than people give credit for, regardless of how much money the Giants are paying Daniel Jones. Because what we saw from him in that preseason game last week was pitiful, just simply pitiful.
I mean, yeah, but money. I don't know, man. I mean, it's true. You're right, because they were going to bench Wilson. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
We were gonna sit Wilson. So I guess it don't matter how much they're getting paid.
Yeah, but we're kind of getting off topic here, Ty, and I do apologize. But let's talk about that Broncos defense. Man, did they do a hell of a job, Ty.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to hear from you. Who do you think out of that defense was player of the game?
I would say Maury Mathis played pretty good this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say Maury Mathis.
I'm going to stick to my pick from last week and say Ellis, because
he played good.
He played good, and he gave us all quite a scare when he went down. And you really hate to see that in preseason for any player, regardless of their starting position. But it just like, man,
he's quick off the line. He's quick off the line too. That was a great pick, late pick.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch him, like he undercuts alignment. He's quick. I like him a lot.
I really like him too. And even though his job isn't on the, like, he's not in danger of losing a spot on the team, I think that he's going to get some more reps in this week against Arizona, and he's going to make whoever the Cardinals pick as their I don't even know who their backup is. I'm sorry.
Oh, never mind. I thought you were saying who he goes against.
Oh no, yeah, I was trying to figure out who the backup is to Kyler Murray, because I can't think of it for some reason. But I think he's going to go out there and wreck people, because he's starting to look and be that damn good.
And he looks good in the Broncos uniform, so.
Yeah, but to kind of go back to what we saw, and we kind of saw a step up from the pass rush, Ty. I know that last week a lot of us were giving shit to the defensive line from the week before for not sacking the quarterback, but they were able to finally get to him this time, and they just made it an uncomfortable day for the Packers. Now, I will say that probably the biggest mistake for the Packers was not starting any of their starters. It was highly talked about last Friday that the Broncos starters just were giving the Packers a bad day at their office against their number ones. So not having them out there, I think, puts Green Bay at a huge disadvantage because they're more than likely not going to play their starters this coming week against whoever they're facing. So you got to believe that. The reason I say this is because I think it was Cowherd I heard on today who kind of he picked Jordan Love as his possible pick for NFL MVP.
Jordan Love?
Yeah, Jordan Love as like a dark horse. I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. So Kyle, and for a guy who hasn't thrown a pass in an NFL preseason game yet, because I'm pretty sure he didn't play week 1. Like I get it, the hype for him around Green Bay is big, but I don't think he's fully stepped out of that Aaron Rodgers shadow yet. Because for every mistake he makes, for every loss he takes, and as long as the Packers keep getting owned by the Niners in the playoffs, he's going to continue to keep living in that Aaron Rodgers shadow.
I guess nobody took notes of us when we didn't play nobody in the preseason, and look what happened to us.
That's exactly true.
Before Sean Payton got here, and that's why Sean Payton said we're going to have starters playing the preseason last year and this year, of course. But nobody took notes from the Denver Broncos, I guess.
Yeah.
Look at a comment.
Yeah. Blitzby Reppin says, I was watching Lockdown Broncos and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Sayer. I want to say Sayer, and Cody said that they think Keidron Smith is on the roster bubble.
Yeah.
Ooh, I must have missed that episode. I don't remember that conversation. I got to go back and watch it. Did you hear anything about this, Ty?
No, but I could see him being on the roster bubble though. That's what I was saying. Yeah, I didn't hear about that, but I could see him. I mean, he played good last game though. What do you have? 2 interceptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
So he did play good, but we'll see how he plays this week against the Cardinals. So
yeah, he had the interception last week against Green Bay, and then he had the one against Indianapolis, like right after the Broncos fumbled.
So he has
2. That's a bit of a surprise that he would be on the roster bubble.
Well, look who's ahead of him though, too.
Yeah, that's actually true.
You know what I mean? You got to put that in perspective. 53 man. So, but we'll see. He might step up. Maybe this game against the Cardinals, he has a breakout game. You know what I mean? Maybe he plays better than the next man, and he gets on the starting team. You know? It's possible.
I mean, it's kind of crazy because when we do get to our 53-man prediction episode next week, Ty, it's like it's going to be really hard, and it's going to be what everybody's going to be talking about next week, because we're going to get a better idea after Sunday's game, whoever stands out and everything. But there's going to be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made, and there's going to be a lot of players that people have maybe kind of went unnoticed before preseason that are maybe now fan favorites, and unfortunately they're going to have to either get a slot in the practice squad or just get cut altogether and go join another team, and vice versa. Maybe there are players that the Broncos have on their radar on other teams, and they're just waiting for them to get cut and then take a slot. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about preseason, Ty, and it's something that I took for granted for a very, very long time, is that before I didn't really give a damn about preseason. I thought it was just like a waste of time. But the more I started to understand football, the more I started to realize, like, oh shit, this is really important, because that's really, like, yes, you have your number ones, but when your number ones get hurt, you need a number 2. And so
that's how you evaluate your number 2s with preseason. So and they're fighting for a job, so they're going to play their hearts out, even though it's a preseason game. And actually, back to the whole 53-man roster, I think Johnny said last night, Sean Payton said 43 out of the 53 spots are automatically taken. There's, I think, 10 left. So we'll have to really.
I think Zano's just over here wilding out, guys. He says, I say keep Smith and cut Mathis, and that would make him smile.
I'm going to get him a Mathis jersey. Yep.
Meanwhile, Dreamweaver is just so in love with Mathis. If Mathis does not make the 53-man roster come Monday, I think Jay's going to call in sick for a while. He's not going to be well.
He's our third best corner. I don't see him not making it. So
Mundunga says he definitely is because of safety depth, but I think he'll squeak in. And I actually agree with Mundungus because if I'm not mistaken, Ty, the free agent pickup for the Broncos and safety, Brandon Johnson? Did I say that right?
Brandon Jones.
Brandon Jones. Sorry, Jones. But Johnson's the wide receiver. Brandon Jones is dealing with an injury, and he hasn't suited up in a Broncos uniform. Am I right? I heard he was injured.
I thought he played week 1.
Well, he may have played week 1, but I think I could have sworn I read that he was, because when they had Kliss on, you know how he does his 53-man like in-depth guess and whatnot. I did hear him mention that supposedly Jones was dealing with an injury. It might not be major, but I could have sworn I heard it.
Somebody in the chat maybe could, if they know. I don't remember hearing that, but it's a possibility. So if somebody else, let us know.
And I really do hope that's not true, because the last thing the Broncos need to do is deal with injuries before the damn season even starts. But going forward, Ty, let's take a look at the jump forward. Let's take a look at the Cardinals game. Who do you think, if you had to, let's play hypothetical here. If you were Sean Payton, who's the one player that you would have sitting in front in your office and say, hey, you need to shape up or you're going to be shipped out?
I would say Samaje Perine.
Ooh, that's a good choice.
I would say him because, as they mentioned last night too, and I keep referring to last night's episode because I always watch. It's down to me. That's one of the closest position battles right now, in my opinion. Like you know, I mean, we got Javonte, we got I'm having a brain for right now. Jaleel, we have Perine, and we have Audric, right?
Yeah, so Audric, yeah.
I would sit him down and say, you're on the bubble, man, and if you don't step it up this game, you're getting cut. That's who I believe he would have at his desk.
Ooh, man. That's actually a really, really good choice, man. Like I totally forgot about him.
Yeah. And I don't think he makes. I think he gets cut. So
for me, shit. Look, I'm telling you, another one. Blitz here says Dulcich needs to step up or crawl. They both need to wake up. I'm tired of us not having a stud tight end, guys. If just let us know in the chat if it was you guys in this hypothetical situation while I give out my answer, and we'll read your answers out here out live on the air. Devin Allen Hoffman Sr. says, "Go Raiders."
That's my friend. He's a Raiders fan.
Hey, Devin. We talked about your team earlier on in the show. If you want to know what we said, you can always recap backwards. And make sure you're following us, guys, on social media. You can follow me at a 6'10" Mexican, by the way. A cheap plug. Dungan says it's 1 PS2. Oh, he's talking about cornerback depth. I thought he was talking about what we were talking about. Yeah, he says Moss 2nd, McMillan 3rd, Wallace 4th, Mathis 5th, and Abrams Drain 6th.
I don't know. I don't agree with that.
That's a hell of a depth chart.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick, the reason I brought up Blitzby Reppin's statement here is because he took my answer. I don't think Dulcich is in the hot seat, not yet. His injuries have really kept him from being able to showcase what he can do. So hopefully he stays healthy enough to prove to Sean Payton that he's worth the roster spot. Otherwise, if he gets hurt like one more time, they're probably they might not wait till the end of the season to do something with him.
I was going to say it's the same thing with Tim Patrick, man. No matter how much everybody loves him, if he gets injured again, I think he's gone by the end of the season. And the same thing with Dulcich too. He had that injury since college, the hamstring. It's like lingering. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if he's doing the right training or what. I don't know what he does, but that hamstring's been there since UCLA.
Yeah, but for my pick, I'm going to say Lucas Krull.
Lucas Krull?
Yeah, Lucas Krull, because for some reason he had flashes last year with Russell Wilson, and maybe it was just because, they were able to have some chemistry. But so far, Krull, has not shown anywhere near of the potential he could have from what we saw last year. And it might be just for the simple fact that maybe him and Bo Nix haven't, built their a chemistry, a relationship, a repertoire, whatever you want to say yet. But I would probably sit here and tell him, and that goes back to what Blitzby Rep says. He's tired of us not having a stud tight end, and we haven't had one since
Julius.
Yeah, since Julius. And if you want to get a little bit close, Julius Thomas, for those from our championship season back in 2015. But I could say like the last one we had close was Noah Fant.
Noah Fant
was show kind of like that. Noah Fant had flashes of him and Drew Lock, about to be the next best thing since, well, I don't want to say Gronk and Brady, but
I thought they were going to be great, man, too. I did.
Yeah, and they probably still can, but they're still together right now in Seattle. So, and they haven't really shown anywhere close to what we saw out of them in 2019. Oh, I meant last year. Sorry, last year.
Good.
But I can see that comparison because we're still kind of waiting around to see what's going on with Troy Franklin. I know his name has been thrown around a lot and not for the good and not anything good lately. So and for Troy Franklin, he would probably be an honorable mention in terms of saying, hey, I know you're still a rookie. I know he's still new, but in this organization, he needs to understand that it doesn't matter how much the management likes you. If these owners are not playing around, if they don't feel you're an asset to the team, they will ship you out, regardless how much money they spend on you, regardless of when they drafted you, and regardless of how much people in Broncos country love you.
Yeah.
No one is safe, regardless of who you are.
On that Troy Franklin topic, I actually believe that, like Jay said it last night, and I agree with him. I don't think if he don't step it up this preseason game or in the beginning of the season, I think what I'll call it like a red shirt player. So that's when I said we'll keep 7 receivers. We'll actually have 6, but 7 with Franklin, but he just won't see the field at all this year if he don't step up. You know what I mean? Because if he's the practice squad, somebody's taking him right away. I believe that. I believe some team's going to pick him up right away, and he's gone, and then we lost him. So that's why I said the 7 receivers, and I think I agree with them. Maybe Troy Franklin, too, will get told by Payton, you got to step it up.
Right. So as we get towards the end of the show here, Ty, Cardinals, Broncos, Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's nationally televised again.
Yeah.
So who do you think wins this game?
Do you want to do bets on it or no? Over-unders? No? I mean, I don't know.
You can for those that are into that. So go for it.
Well, I don't know what the over-under is, but I believe that we win because their backup Clayton Tune, he's doo-doo. So I believe we win, and I would say we've been putting up pretty high scores. So I'll say we win. Is it home, right?
Mm-hmm.
I say we win 34-10.
I'm gonna say 28-7. That'd be my guess. Just for the simple fact that as much as I thought about this right away too, Zach Allen homecoming, but I don't think Zach Allen's gonna suit up D-Rock. I unfortunately know he might be just wearing his uniform on the sidelines, but I don't see him starting. I don't think any of the starters are going to start on both offense, defense, maybe special teams, probably the only exception. But even then, don't expect to see any starters in pads.
What do you think about Troy Franklin maybe if they gave him a shot on special teams, like kick return or punt return? Because he is fast.
He is fast. I mean, Sean Payton, as you said earlier in the show, he's got to find something that works for him. And everybody started somewhere. Shannon Sharp started on special teams before he became a tight end. Shit, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis. If you go look it up, like if I'm not mistaken, his very first hit as a special teamer, I mean, he nailed that guy hard as hell.
Yeah, I never knew that.
So Terrell Davis started on special teams. So like there's a diamond in a rough somewhere there, Ty.
Yeah.
And it's up to Sean Payton to find it. Now, Troy Franklin was a 4th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So even if things do go south or they don't get better, it's not a gigantic loss.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, Troy Franklin kind of seemed like more of a complimentary pick for Bo Nix. And he was a fan favorite because Broncos Country, for those that watch college football anyway, they went bananas when the Troy Franklin pick was announced. Yeah. So
even that board, everybody I seen in chats, I seen online, get Troy Franklin. I was like, yep, he's a fan favorite.
Yeah. So, but I wonder if we might get to see Marvin Harris Jr., right? Because he is a rookie. Do you think we'll see him?
We might, but he's their best receiver, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I guess we'll see. I would like to see him go up against Riley Moss or Damari Matt to see how they play against that type of caliber receiver. Because yes, he is a rookie, but he's different. So that would also give them better experience too at that position. So I would like to see Harrison.
Right. And before we close off today's show, Ty, I want to talk about the man of the hour, who we almost skipped, by the way, just for the simple fact that our conversation went everywhere. Bo Nix, the way he played on Sunday, and the fact that he was robbed of a touchdown because of his toe being slightly past the line, and what should have been a great catch by Javonte Williams, and would have been his first preseason touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Bo Nix's performance against the Packers?
Well, like what's his name said, I shared the video in the chat. I can't remember his name. The Chase Daniels. He said it was he was flourished about that play, and I love that play too. That was great. He drew that corner in, wide open Javonte. I was mad when that got called back. I get it. He was over the line. You got to call it, but that was a beautiful play. Called back or not, I loved it. I loved the play call. I loved Bo Nix doing what he did and getting that ball out.
It was literally something out of Madden, man. I mean, when you watch the replay, you couldn't tell you were watching a Madden gameplay just even from the angle from behind. It was beautiful. But my personal opinion is I think that Bo Nix has done more than what needs to be done to win the quarterback competition. You know, competition that probably shouldn't have even been a 3-way race.
No.
But somebody in the chat earlier said that his first test is going to be against Seattle. Yeah. And I'm still going to stand on my toes and say, hey, Seattle's defense, it's kind of, I know they got that young guy from the Russell Wilson package. What was his name? Witherspoon? Cornerback.
They got Devin Witherspoon, and they got another corner too. I can't remember his name, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But I don't think that even as good as they may be, I don't think that they're going to be good enough to keep Seattle away from what should be a plentiful revenge game for the Broncos from 2 years ago, because we don't have Nathaniel Hackett no more. We don't have Russell Wilson no more. And we don't have Brandon McManus, who's going to try to kick a 60, 65-yard field goal to tie the game.
I don't even want to talk about that.
So I think that the Broncos are going to use Seattle as like their first stepping stone to say, hey,
I like it.
Yeah, we mean business. And I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself in terms of predictions, but they need to go into week 2, which is going to be their season home opener against what we hope will be Russell Wilson starting for the Steelers, because I think that Broncos Country wants to see that game.
Me
flourish.
Too. Me too.
But let's be repping here, as he said that Lombardi is calm on the mic and Payton is super stressful with play calling, so he hopes that he can adjust to Payton's aggressiveness on the headset. Oh, he's going back to something he said. Did you guys hear what Chase Daniels said about how Lombardi calls the plays and how Sean Payton calls the plays? Has me a little.
No,
worried.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. I mean, I didn't see anything like that during the season last year. But then again, with most, The energy we got from Sean Payton last year is exactly what we were missing with Nathaniel Hackett. And I much rather deal with what we have in Sean Payton now in terms of, hey, when shit hits the fan, he reacts to it instead of just a blank, like it's whatever face from Hackett or Vic Fangio. As much as I love him as a defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio was almost just as not very emotional with his feelings either. So,
well, look how Sean got with, even though it was that touchdown pass we just got done talking about. He was over a high five. You know what I mean? It's like he practically jumped. I like that out of Sean Payton. I love Sean Payton, and I'm all for this. I'm all for this thing he's building, this team. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I am too. But guys, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, big thank yous to everybody in the chat. Mundungus, Blitzby repping, Dreamweaver. I'm going to try to go as quick as I can. D-Rock, and anybody that I missed. Devin, Alan, thank you so much. I'm just going up the list. Thank you guys so much. Avatar, Gary Neighbors, and Shai Vargas. Thank you guys so much for being in the chat today. Guys, please make sure, if you haven't done so already, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, share on the Orange and Blue Network on YouTube, X, Facebook.com/Orange and Blue Network. And wherever it is you guys are listening to us after the fact, audio listeners, we haven't forgot about you. We love you. Please make sure you like and subscribe wherever it is you listen to this podcast. 5-star reviews. Please make sure you continue to show your support and share wherever you can. One thing I did forget to mention at the beginning of the show is, for any business inquiries, you can email me at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. Spotify on Anchor listeners, thank you guys so much for your continued support. If you guys are monthly donors to the show, thank you guys so much. I promise I'll follow back up on that. I know I fell back on it. And also, in partnership with MHRT Network, please don't forget to follow them on their social, subscribe, and share on their channel. Everybody at MHRT that are watching us on the simulcast, thank you so much. It is great to be back on MHRT Network. It's something that I can't tell you. I'm so glad I'm able to say once again. Follow them on all their socials, on YouTube, on X. You can follow them at facebook.com/MHRT Network and on twitch.tv/MHRT Network. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Broncos Country, we are very, very thankful. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Ty, do you have anything to add before we go?
No, I'm excited to go on this journey with you, to get better at podcasting, to be with MHRT. I'm excited for all this, learning experience, all of it. And I appreciate everybody joining and all the love.
And I couldn't agree with you more. So Broncos Country, once again, thank you guys so much. He is Ty Y, the fantasy guy. I'm your host and owner and proprietor of Broncos Talk, Adan Diaz, and this has been Broncos Talk on the Orange and Blue Network in sponsorship, partnership, and sponsor probably, who knows, with the MHRT Network. Thank you guys so much again.
Thank you.
Have a good night. So long, everybody. And Broncos Country, Bo-Lieve.
Bo.